If you've ever been to Belgrade, then you've certainly been to Kalemegdan Fortress, and it's likely you wondered what stories are hidden behind these walls. Where today we're going inside, literally. We're going to open the doors and go to 3 museums inside of Kalemegdan that most visitors just cruise right past. These 3 museums are going to hold incredible historical stories going all the way back to the prehistoric period. We might see one of the oldest fossils in Europe that was found nearby up in the plains just north of here. We'll also be headed into the military museum, where I'm hoping we're going to see the uniform of the most important person of the last century that you probably don't know their name. Unless you're Serbian. Serbs probably do know the name of this guy. And then after that, we're headed down the hill to Kula Nebojsa, or Fearless Tower, which is supposed to hold a whole bunch of the history of the first Serbian uprising, like a big freedom movement against the Ottoman Empire, and is definitely one of the most storied places here in Belgrade. It's gonna be rad. So let's head into Kalemegdan and go check it out.
This gate is easily the prettiest gate to enter Kalemegdan, and you can see below there's a fun little spot called the Eagle's Nest. Especially in the summer, this stuff's all open for kids to come and like play around as if they were medieval warriors. Entering this way, we pass through several gates. Next week, I'm going to be talking about the actual history of the places in Kalemegdan, so make sure to check that out if you're interested. One of the things Kalemegdan is super known for is having these big sweeping views over the top of Belgrade. Really, really beautiful spot. Kalemegdan is actually the park that's outside of the fortress, but you can see right here inside the fortress is also a pretty massive park. And it's December right now, so when you're here, it might look quite different than this. And after you pass through this gate, you enter this whole area that's dedicated to the military museum. We'll head into the military museum next. For right now, we're going to continue straight on past and go to that Museum of Natural History.
Before we get to medieval and Ottoman history and the fight for freedom, I want to take you to a little gallery that most people skip. The tiny yellow gallery behind me, hiding the entire natural history of the Balkans. Going all the way from Ice Age mammoths up to the rare species endangered and alive still here in Serbia today. Honestly, I have no idea what we're in for, so let's go see.
I think one of the reasons I'd never really entered this museum or the military museum is because they're right next to this dinosaur park. So I just kind of expected that they're like kidsy, but today it's time to go check them out and see. If you come to this natural history museum, you should definitely check out their website first. I didn't realize it's such a small space that there is no permanent exhibit, only rotating exhibits. And so right now they only have the insects out. Well, it's interesting. It's not really what I was looking for, so I'm sorry to say it was a bit disappointing. But that said, it's absolutely amazing how many moths and butterflies. They're really, really beautiful. It's fun to see. I had no idea there were cicadas in this area. I thought they were like purely American. I don't know what it is, why like when moths and butterflies are huge, they're beautiful, but when beetles and other things are huge, it's just super freaky. So if I checked the website and I knew what I was walking into, I think this would have been much cooler. Unfortunately, I was expecting to see something more like prehistoric fossils, so for me today, it was just a little disappointing.
Well, that was too bad, but I guess it makes sense. It's a tiny building. They only have rotating exhibitions, so right now it's only the insects. Next, let's head over to that military museum. Even the space outside is fantastic, so I'm really excited for this one. If you want to see the history of how Belgrade has been fought over more than 100 times, this museum is the spot, the military museum here in Kalemegdan. Inside is supposed to be one of the most intense timelines in Europe, going all the way from prehistoric battles through the Romans into the Middle Ages, of course going into the Ottomans, the fight for freedom, the Austro-Hungarians, both world wars, Yugoslavia, and even artifacts from the NATO bombings in 1999. There's several things I've heard forward inside that I'm really excited to see, from a Kalashnikov prototype to the uniform that I mentioned earlier. So if you have a Western education like me, I'm willing to bet this is the most important guy in history whose name you don't know. You probably do know the name of the guy that was killed to start World War I. You might even know where he was killed. Maybe you even know which nation declared war on which nation. But do you know the name of the guy that fired the bullet? If you're not Serbian, I'm willing to bet you don't. And inside, we're gonna find out about this history. Should be super fascinating. So let's go hit it.
I really love walking around this area outside of the military museum. There's so much cool engineering in this stuff, from like artillery to missile platforms, all kinds of different tanks. It's really, really neat to see all the different ways that these things were engineered. This truck is a missile platform. Of course, from the age before all of this, cannons were defending these walls. And being Kalemegdan, there's beautiful, beautiful views over the river. There's a bunch of naval stuff too, which is also interesting to see. I wouldn't have thought that Serbia was like a super naval nation being landlocked, but it makes sense. Back in the day, this kingdom was much larger and it did reach all the way to the sea. So there's like torpedoes and German mines, and we'll see more things inside as well. To get into the military museum, you go up onto the stairs across from the clock tower, and it's really cool the way all of these artillery guns are set up. It's very on theme. Really cool, there's like the bow of this ship named Serbia. And while the guns are neat, what's much cooler to me is this is a field kitchen, cooking up all kinds of like soups and stews for the soldiers. Really neat. Right by the entrance, a modern Humvee. Well, I guess maybe not modern anymore. Modern when I was a kid. It's very cool. When you first enter, there's these mosaics that have the original weapons. So on the left here, the Illyrians and Thracians might have been outfitted like this, and then the Celts are the next one. Of course, the Roman soldier with his gladius, and then the Byzantine soldier later on. They also have these showcases showing the same types of things. So this is like the Illyrians and the Celts might have used these things. In the next case, there's the very iconic Roman gladius, but also some spearheads and a helmet. These are Germanic and Byzantine weapons. And even when you cross to this first room, we've clearly gone ahead a few centuries. And it's interesting, the main advancements I would have thought of are like materials and stuff, but you can see there's still bone weapons in the bottom left here, and the clear advancement is the bow. It's actually these missile weapons. The coolest thing to me is going room by room, you see the advancements in technology and engineering, like all the way from prehistory up to the modern day. So here we've jumped all the way up into like the 7th or 8th century when the Slavs have arrived, and we have long spears. You can see the advances in arrows over here. Some old chainmail, although I think that chainmail is not going to help you out much if someone brings one of these maces to battle. They have a room dedicated to the Battle of Kosovo. It's a super famous battle in Serbian history. And it's one of the things I've gained a lot of respect for, is we from Western Christianity owe a lot to the Orthodox Christians of this area for just defending us against the East for centuries and centuries. So these are like Turkish style weapons from that same era. We're talking Middle Ages now. And we've clearly jumped forward in time. You can see like the Western European style suit of armor on the left here. One of the things that amazes me is you see the size of these cannonballs and you think of the size that the cannons must have been. This one over here is crazy. So of course the Turks were outfitted differently, and after they arrived, the artisans in the area started making the same type of things. So these are like Serbian artisans making Turkish style stuff because that was the empire that owned this area. This was a really interesting case the way it's set up. You can see here the way all of these arms are really, really well done. It's like castle forged steel, like for the military. And over here, this is like the farmers and freedom fighters weapons. And it's interesting, like you think of farmers' weapons as being like the wood axe and whatever, but they had legitimate weapons. They were just like forging them in the forest and on the farm. Very clearly mismatched armies. So here we've jumped forward in history again. This is around like the 1600s. It's the time when the border between the Ottoman Empire and the Austro-Hungarians is kind of solidified right at Belgrade. And so it means you have Serbian artisans on both sides making different types of weapons and clothing. So and it's around this time then that we get like flintlock pistols. I know these are pieces of weaponry, but they're also just really, really beautiful craftsmanship. And flintlock pistols, of course, we've jumped forward in time to somewhere around the year 1800, so it's moving towards the time of the first Serbian uprising. These are the types of weapons and outfits that people were carrying in the first Serbian uprising. As an American, it kind of reminds me of the time period of the American Revolution, and it's probably similar in some ways, like the Serbians who are fighting for freedom huddled up in the forest, repairing their weapons, and sitting around the campfire making bullets for the next engagement. On the left here is the flag of the first Serbian uprising. It's a super interesting period in Serbian history. Of course, the first Serbian uprising failed, but a few decades later they did achieve some level of autonomy from the Ottomans. These are the type of uniforms that the Serbians might have been wearing during the Serbian uprising. And of course, when the first Serbian uprising failed, the Ottomans built what's known as Skull Tower down in the city of Niš. It's a really, really interesting place. If you're interested, we went to Niš last year, and I'll leave a link in the corner. After the second Serbian uprising, Serbia began to achieve some level of autonomy, and near the end of the 1800s, they got autonomy from the Ottomans. One of the first things that the king of the Serbian kingdom at the time did is try to update the military. So you can see we've entered the area here when there's actual bullet cartridges, and so all of these bolt-action rifles would have been from that time period when they're updating the military. The pistols begin to look a lot like modern revolvers. It's really interesting, like I'd heard of this time period, but I hadn't thought about what it really means to modernize, and these weapons are quite modern in a lot of ways. Really interesting to see. Like, this is a Maxim machine gun, definitely from around that era. This weapon would have been a terror during World War I. It's really, really cool to see the changes in engineering in the pistols. And now we're definitely moving towards World War I arms, where explosives become king. This is interesting, like a 9-cylinder plane engine. This plane crashed into Lake Prespa down in the modern North Macedonia. And being World War I, this is the story I'm talking about. The guy who fired the bullet that started World War I in the top right here, Gavrilo Princip. Unfortunately, they don't have like a uniform or any specific artifacts, but they do tell the story a bit. It's hard to imagine being a 19-year-old kid, part of this revolution, and then like everything in the plan goes wrong, and the target of the assassination rolls up right next to you. Well, I can picture being 19 and dedicated to the cause. What you do is you pull out your pistol and finish the job. I'd like to think everyone involved with the start of World War I would have made different decisions if they knew the end result, but regardless, a brave young revolutionary for certain. This is a reproduction of the actual telegram that was sent from Austria to Serbia declaring war, the first declaration of war that started World War I. In World War I, it would have been the Royal Army that's fighting, and this is the flag for the Royal Army. At top, it says something like "for king and country," and at the bottom, "with faith in God." This is interesting as some examples of the type of kit that World War I soldiers might have taken, but in the bottom right here, we see women were allowed to enlist. Quite modern for an army at the time. Of course, not everyone is outfitted equally, so peasants that signed up to help in the war effort would have been carrying things like this. It's hard to believe in a war like World War I, peasants coming around with leather shoes, trudging through the snow and living in trenches. And the brand new engineering meant that people had very unfair advantages in different engagements. Here are the flags of the Royal Serbian Army in World War I. You can see the crest of the government on one side, and then Christ representing the church on the other side. Really, really cool to see the different engineering. These are, I think, all German pistols. So on the left, I believe these are Mausers, and on the right, they're Lugers. It's really interesting. From what I know, the Luger was supposed to be very accurate, but you can see how small the barrel is, which means also if it got dirty or anything, it would jam. This bike is absolutely beautiful. Super reminds me of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. But it's really cool the way you see the oil cooler hanging off to the side there. It's like a BMW Airhead or something. So cool. Now we're moving into World War II style. It's interesting that in World War II, there were actually two armies that were fighting for freedom here. Of course, the Germans ran over the Balkans very early in the war, but then you have the Royal Army looking for independence for the Serbian kingdom, and then you also have the partisans, who were the communists. But they were separate armies, both uprising and fighting against the Germans. World War II, of course, we get submachine guns. If you were an artist in the war, what do? Well, this is some of the kit of a Serbian. George Androvic Kun was very clearly an artist. And so during the war, he's just kind of documenting some of his experience. And you really get a sentiment of the patriotism and the respect for soldiers, which of course makes total sense being a soldier himself. Really interesting. So this boat framing in the background is from Partisan 1, obviously part of the Partisan Army. It was sunk during the war. Super interesting to see and very well laid out. Being a backpacker, I'm a little bit of envious of this kit. It's very cool to see, like the map case and the compass. Really cool stuff. Binoculars, really great leather work. And then some other pieces of kit that I'm very blessed never to have had to carry. Tommy gun. In the US, we'd associate this with like the mafia, but of course, this is wartime hardware. It's interesting. So this is obviously a representation of Yugoslavia from immediately after the war, but I think of Yugoslavia as having the 5 main regions, and it looks like there are 6 shields for different regions here. I wonder which those regions are. So even with this modern kit during World War II, you still have bayonets on the end of rifles. And now we're definitely getting into a more modern period. You have like modern-ish sniper rifles. I think some of this kit would have been from when I was a kid. This gun is crazy. Look how big that barrel is. Just makes me wonder, was it firing just like a massive bullet or some sort of explosive? Super crazy looking. So some of these look like hunting rifles, but a lot of them obviously are automatic or semi-automatic. Definitely moving into modern kit now. You can tell the thing I really loved about this museum is just being able to actually see the changes in the engineering as we progress through the centuries of warfare.
Wow, that was super cool. I'm not like the big like hoorah war guy, whatever, but it's really cool to go like all through the centuries and see the development of weapons and warfare. And it's like you can see the changes in engineering as they come through the centuries. So cool. And then on top of it, of course, really interesting history. Just obviously bloody, destructive, terrible, horrifying history. I've done quite a few museums now here in Belgrade, and I have to say I think this might be my favorite one. And like I said, I'm not like the big war guy, so I haven't done a ton of like wartime museums around the world, so there probably are some really fantastic ones. But that one was incredible. Wow. We got one more museum to hit up today. It's the Kula Nebojsa. The building is certainly super historic. I'm really not sure what the exhibits are gonna be, but from Kalemegdan, if you just go straight down towards the river Sava, you end up with this little tower right by the river. That's it. So let's go see what it's all about. Kalemegdan is famous for these wide open views over the top of the rivers, over the top of the city. I don't know if you can see that far. Where we're headed is straight down the hill, down to that tower right out there, Kula Nebojsa. It looks super chill today, but once upon a time it was one of the major fortifications guarding the Danube River right over there. And then later on in history, it became one of the most notorious prisons where revolutionaries were tortured and killed. Let's go see what's up today.
As you head down the hill, you pass by 2 of my favorite churches. Here's the first one. It's really unique, like this military themed church. And And here's the second one. This church is really, really beautiful, tiny little intimate church with incredible mosaics inside. Next week, when I do the updated video on Kalemegdan itself, we'll go inside both of these churches. Here we are, Kula Nebojsa. When you first enter, there's this pretty little display. The first level is actually the most impressive level in this museum. You'll see it's pretty plain and there kind of isn't a lot to this museum other than the tower itself. These screens are hard to see in the video, but it's showing pictures and it's all in homage to the prisoners that were forced to live and eventually die here. As we head up, you see this is the second of the 4 floors in the museum, and they're pretty plain. There are exhibits describing little things and like videos you can watch. So this little description is about the first Serbian uprising, and I'm sure there were some revolutionaries from the first Serbian uprising who were brought and imprisoned here. As a side note, you can see out this window to Zapabarka. I'm really excited to go party there at some point, but I still haven't made it. Some of the exhibits are also to like naval history, which makes sense. This would have been one of the major defense points on the Danube and Sava rivers. And then this little display is about the second Serbian uprising and how they began to get Serbian autonomy under Prince Miloš. So there are some interesting little things here, but honestly for a weighty, important historical building in the area, I expected more.
Well, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, this museum here at Kula Nebojsa is one I personally would skip. Of the 3 museums we went to today, really the only one that I think is incredible is that military museum. 100% recommend that one. Other than that, I would say Kalemegdan itself is a better artifact than any of the rest of these. I keep calling it Kalemegdan as we generally do here in Belgrade, but actually it is Belgrade Fortress. When we first got here, I did a video showing my favorite way to walk through the fortress and just see those beautiful views that it's so well known for. So I'll hook that video up on the top here. But next week, I've learned so much about Kalemegdan. I'm gonna talk about the actual Serbian history that we see, and it's fantastic. So if I finish that video, it's hooked up on the bottom right here. Honestly, Belgrade Fortress is one of the coolest places in Belgrade, so check it out.